wants to speak at public comment? If none, we will move forward into our agenda. Approval of the minutes, any corrections, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, I have a motion to accept the approved minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Hear a motion? Hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Council updates. Are there any updates from council at this time? Hearing no updates. Going to our consent agenda. Is there any questions on the consent agenda items? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Make the motion.
Hear a motion, I hear a second.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First item on our discussion items is with Ben Cathy, talking about the extension of the Greenway, Cane Creek Greenway. Thank you for coming out, Ben. Appreciate it.
And you should all have on the dais, I know we were going through some of the copies, the letter of recommendation for the sections that Ben will talk about, but the sections to start with, and then cost estimates for all the sections, including the ones that are recommended.
Well, the first step of the project, we're looking at the grant that we received, is the two grants, correct, Mark? That we're going to help fund an extension of a portion of the Greenway Trail. The first step we discussed was trying to figure out, due to some critical crossings and things like that, we need to talk about the holistic path of it so that we can make a good decision now on which piece to try to go for. We don't want to execute a portion of the trail that later has to be abandoned due to not being able to cross or not being able to access, something like that. So this master planning piece was to try to determine that overall path or strategy to get from the current greenway system at Biltmore Park to the interstate. So that was our goal here, to look at that path. And the information that you have is the result of that field work and some various discussions with a lot of the previous information that Eric has had, and working and discussing trails for several years now. And then looking at conservation uses and things like that. So, to the overall site plan, and we have this in logical phases. If y'all are looking at this on, you have this on the screen.
Yes.
Yes.
So as I move my cursor, okay.
Looks like it's zooming okay on mine.
Okay. We have it broken up into logical phases as well, realizing that this is probably not going to happen as a one large project. But phase one goes through Fernleaf. It's this red piece that would connect. We'd have to cross Howard Gap from the park, and it would border Cane Creek through Fernleaf down to, or close to the railroad right away. And then that's where things get a little bit complicated. Thus, we switch phases because we get into more, easements with the railroad and the DOT will be a hurdle to cross, and then underpasses on the railroad and Highway 25. And then we would circle back around and utilize a short section of existing sidewalk along Highway 25. Could we cross right there? We can, but crossings on Cane Creek with pedestrian pathways are just going to be expensive and difficult from a flood permitting standpoint, and just the construction of them is going to be expensive, and the flood permitting can get tricky. So that's one of the reasons that we would utilize that section of Highway 25. Could we do that differently? We can. A dedicated pedestrian crossing, it feels better as a pedestrian. That's not very comfortable walking along Highway 25. Cars are going in speed limit 45 that are doing 55, like I said, it's not very comfortable, so. But from a cost perspective, we thought this is the most reasonable route, but that's something that could change later. We have a short little section of DOT sidewalk here to extend, and then we would access across, Charlie Owen, I can't remember the name that he did.
Sirocco Properties.
And so that this first set, or about half of section 3 would be across their property, which in the past they've indicated that they had no problem with an easement through there. Right here is where we would cross onto the town's existing property. And then phase 3 comes down along the tree line, along this irrigation channel / creek, and would come over to a proposed new parking area that's on your property, off of Rockwell Drive. Section 4 would then, it's on your property as well, and it would create a large loop on your property that was just over a mile, I think it's 1.1 and some change, that this loop would be right here. So that you get lost on the scale a little bit. You're like, oh, this is not real big. Well, this is pretty big. So, I mean, that would be a substantial area to go. You can have a nice walk. And it's actually out in the middle. It's pretty quiet, actually. One of our guys that walked it said, you're far enough away from 25 on interstate, and it's pretty peaceful out there. Section then 5 would be a short piece along Rockwell Drive, and then move it across Rockwell property. What it's coming from.
Cummins now, yeah.
If this would be across this royal blue line, would be across their property, all the way down to, again, we did a section 6, because you could do 5 down to just a loop turnaround down there. But section 6 is going to be very expensive and difficult. Back to the permitting, we would have to cross. There's no way we're going to piggyback on the interstate here, so we would have to have our own dedicated crossing and then an underpass over to the golf course property at the moment, and that's where that's where this master plan ends. So any questions?
Well, I guess it'd be toward Mark, on section 6 and section 5, where does the actual town limits stop at? Because I'm thinking some of this project goes outside the town limits, correct?
Well, as this master plan that McGill and Ben worked on, our town limits go all the way to I-26.
So
Yeah, I'm pretty certain they go to I-26. Now,
Okay.
once it leaves there, then you're outside, you're unincorporated Henderson County. We annexed all the rest of well, now it's called Cummins. It was Meritor, Arvin Meritor before. So the rest of the Arvin Meritor property was annexed in, with the exception of where the plant physically is, kind of a print so that should all be town jurisdiction property up to 26.
Okay.
One other item to note is this conservancy in this area. We can't hardly, you can't look at it. You can't stop and look at it too long. It's going to be We're not, that's one of the reasons that we curve around it, that you'll see here, is that we're not going to be able to cross it with a trail, bridge, anything like that.
And for those, excuse me, just for those who don't know what that's about 20 years ago, the town entered into a agreement with DOT and the Ecosystem Enhancement Program to restore a stream to a basically it was a drainage ditch to a meandering stream, and then we had to put a big easement around it. And it was a deal to help the state get mitigation credits for wetlands impacts.
And this access road basically is the way that we can, because it extends up into this range. This is a pre-existing access road that was crossing the easement before, so that's what we would be utilizing.
In the parking lot, how many roughly cars is that estimating right there, Ben?
We have gone back and forth with that. I think we've upped it to approximately 20.
Yeah, that's
20 cars.
my recollection too.
And that is, zoom in, there is, you see it's slightly different. We would have to have a section of that, see, we get it as concrete. The concrete or asphalt one for handicap parking place, the rest right this moment will be gravel. And there's plenty of room, we can, that one could certainly do this.
We obviously don't want to encourage people parking on the road and that, but if there was like a big overflow, I mean, they could be parking along the side of the road or path or off to the shoulder on Rockwell. I mean, we don't want to encourage that because of the truck traffic down there. I don't know how Cummins would feel about it, but, or we can make it bigger, like you've mentioned. Yeah, probably on the field, yeah, along that path, like getting off shoulder kind of ish area would be better.
What else, is there any other thoughts about specific areas? And, like I said, the most difficult are those 2 and 6 because they involve the DOT and or railroad and we're going to have to build concrete infrastructure, either sidewalk or small retaining walls and things like that. So those will be more tricky.
I personally do like how you laid this thing out where section 1 of being like the first, as you move through there, what kind of prioritizes everything. Looks like you've done right there. It's up to 6 right there. So like section 1, you have to have that to go to section 2 and then 3 to get the whole overfill, and then you eventually do section 4 or something like that. So with the amount of money, you said $800,000, $900,000, what sections you looking at, like 1 and 2? Or?
No, 3 and 4 is what's recommended in the letter.
Okay.
So the green area and then the aqua. So that's 3 and 4. And then section 1 is what they would call a bid alternate. Like if we got really good bids, we could do another section, then to try and do section 1, 3, and 4.
So basically with 3 and 4, it's just going to be a separate walk and park. I guess that's why that parking lot's there.
That's right.
It would, except you technically do have connectivity from the park. If you, that's what this black dashed line is.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
You can currently walk
yeah.
in the park along
Right.
concrete sidewalk down there. Like I said, this long stretch along 25, like I was saying, is not comfortable, but you do have it.
Yeah.
If somebody's like, I want a big loop, all right, you can. And then, yes, the separate parking lot does kind of give 3 and 4, it can be a little bit of its own identity for a while. And then the hopes that, 1 and 2 come along reasonably quickly, and then it makes that access a whole lot more comfortable. But 3 and 4 fit the budget pretty well.
Yeah.
And depending on how good those prices are, if we get favorable pricing, maybe, if we add that alternate, get 1, 3, and 4 done, and if not, at least get 3 and 4 done.
The grant money, our match, and then we have $100,000 in the CIP this year. If the bids come in decently, should allow us to at least get section 3 and 4 done, designed and built. And if the bids are really good, maybe get section 1 and 2. I mean, section 1 as well as section 3 and 4. And the overall goal is to try and get a much larger award, like a federal grant. And there'd probably be a matching requirement on that, but to go and finish this whole thing, to have the whole connectivity and overlay it probably with asphalt. Because the way Ben and his colleagues have designed this from McGill is to have it built with enough structure, even though it's a soft trail, this would all be a soft trail, they're good, have enough, I guess, under
The
the,
base below it.
yeah, to support if you go back, which would be the bigger goal.
Pave it,
With, yeah, with pave it, because that would just be so much better from a maintenance standpoint to do that, long-term.
What's your thoughts on section 2? I mean, we've talked about many options and different things. Is that still going across the street, or is that going under, or?
Under,
Okay.
it'll be under the railroad and under DOT, and then circle back up
Yeah,
and hit the sidewalk.
okay.
And we walk down there, I mean, we're gonna have to do, and the tricky part, it's just gonna be both permits with the railroad, DOT, and then getting flood permit. So we'll just have to be careful to not decrease flow area from the flood standpoint. So, anywhere we're gonna go, we just can't fill that up with one cut or something. And there, do I have the option? Not exactly, but I believe it's doable
Okay.
to come up with something.
Yeah, I never was a fan of crossing the road there.
Yeah, 25.
It gets worse and worse every day, so I mean, I can only imagine.
I guess the good thing is, if you have to cross, it's a very short
Yeah.
area that you come around and cross, and then you're off of it again.
Yeah, we'd have to utilize the sidewalk beside it, but you would never have to
Yeah.
cross the track.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to
Yeah,
cross
that'd be
25.
fine.
And there's room underneath the bridge there, under the Highway 25 bridge. I mean, it's a pretty big area under there. There's still not like a ton of space to build a path, but there's enough space to build a path under there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ben?
How long do you think these 2 phases will take? Just guessing, I mean, is it,
Or if we were hypothetically just to get 3 and 4 done, I don't, actually, I've got the yard on this, see if we got some. And then there are estimates attached to that, to each of these, and you can see why we got to. It's 1,100 yards, I mean, that's not, I assume they would do that pretty methodically and linear. I'm almost thinking you're digging it out, putting it in a truck and hauling in stone. The truck brings the stone, hauls it out there. So I would say that we probably, our contract time would probably give them 3 months or something, but I think they could get it done in 6, 8 weeks.
okay.
It's not, I mean, I'm sure they'll run into some issues in some places. It's not a super complicated project. Now, if we were doing going underneath,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
section 2, that the permitting gets much more complicated with that.
Okay.
And then we have to jump through the hoops of like our next steps with the grant. Like we have to submit environmental and I think preliminary design per either the Connecting Communities to State Trails or Great Trails State Program. Those are the 2 grants that we got.
And if it gets super popular, we could say easily double our parking lot size?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of room with it. Y'all own
Yeah.
that field right
Yeah,
there?
I see.
Yeah.
I think we
There's
could,
plenty of room.
I mean, we could probably do that. In
Yeah.
days, to be like, well, here, extend this or put another section over there, that wouldn't be a problem.
And we may at some point have to deal with some adjustment to the lease arrangement with the farmer. I mean, they could continue to farm this, but, if we start encroaching more into the usable farming space. But, I mean, that wasn't, the long-term goal of getting this property, just to farm it out. I mean, it's good use right now, but it was to try and do some type of recreational use. And maybe some public facility over there too, like Public Works, maybe one day.
Adjacent to the. farm.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because there's about, what, 5 or so acres that are out of the flood zone right in that area?
No, there's technically a little over an acre,
Oh, okay.
maybe pushing 2, that's completely out of the floodplain, flood hazard area. And then there's another 5 to 6 acres that's flood fringe, which is in the floodplain, but you can elevate and build.
Yes, so we did jump into the estimates. Was there anything there that summary sheet, you're welcome to look at all these for a little bit, if y'all have some exciting numbers and that.
I mean, McGill's construction estimates put it a little over 800,000, and, you know, with our match and the grant monies, it's just a hair shy of 800,000. We've got the 100,000 in the CIP that's already appropriated for the current year, and that'll cover a lot of design fees on it, and then we might have, and it depends how the bids come in too. We may have enough within that, you know, roughly $900,000 budget to do the construction, soft costs with engineering, et cetera.
Any other questions for Ben? Questions on the estimate?
I'm not pushing a decision tonight, but if you all are comfortable with, and I'll just, for the record, the mayor, just via email, had some questions clarifying some things, and I did ask him, I emailed him back, I said, if you're not comfortable or you want to wait to, you know, yay or nay on what's, you know, the recommendations to do 3 and 4, and then if the bid alternate comes in good enough on section 1, trying to add that, you know, we could, but he was okay with moving forward via email. I just asked, answered some clarifying questions.
How fast does it need to be done? Because I know Jim's not here too. I'd
Yeah.
love for Jim and the mayor both to be here so they can ask some questions and stuff like that, but not having Ben coming back, but just, I guess, to discuss it with the group and then, I guess, vote on it, just for respect out of both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice, definitely by the December meeting, if
Yeah.
we could green light this, because we got to set, you know, Ben and company to start working on these design elements so we can start satisfying these specific requirements of the grant program.
And at this point, to get through design permitting, we would want to have somebody that'll work on it. If we turn loose in April or something like that, I don't see any point in getting them out there much before that. You don't want to go opening anything up
Yeah.
in the middle of winter, so.
Right. So it sounds like, can we wait till
Yeah.
December and then to finalize it in December?
Yeah, and we did give the granting agencies, we asked some clarifying questions, like how long can you obligate it? And we should be fine on that. We can get some, if we need some more clarification from, you know, Conserving Carolina applied for the applications. Rebecca Robinson had been here about that. But, yeah, they were going to give us, like, if we can get it obligated, I think was, if I remember right, the language in the next year, and then I think we have a little more time to expend the funds. But if you can make a decision by them, and by December, and then get going on the design stuff, I think we should be fine.
Okay. I think we should be able to get a decision by December, but I just want to make sure that they have their,
Yeah.
some, out of respect, wait.
Sure.
their 2 cents.
Ben's going to be back for the December meeting, just a quick item on the cost estimates for the street resurfacing on the 3 streets we have proposed, and we could just cover this, you know, hopefully briefly then, or however much time you need to go further into it.
Sounds good.
And another good thing, just a little bit of an aside on this, but the police department, you know, was donated a side-by-side. And it's been equipped, and it's got lights, and we think that would be a nice piece for patrol in in the park on our current greenway trails, but then also to help with some of this. Of course, most of the day-to-day would be Parks and Rec, kind of inspecting, maintaining, policing it. But the police just got that. It's a very nice, brand-new side-by-side that was donated from a foundation, and then the City of Asheville, the police group.
Very good. Any other questions for Ben? Ben, thank you for everything you've done. As always, you do great work, so thank you for that. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, and it's exciting to get this,
Very, yes.
getting close to,
moving forward.
getting something ready to go.
All right, discussion item number 9, instructions for updating to the 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Town Manager.
All right, thank you. I know last week I went over all the instructions for the CIP update, and then just a reminder, so I sent that out to department heads. It will be due their project submissions by November 26th. If you all have any projects, I know one that Jim had talked to me after the meeting or separately is a potential one for additional lighting out at Bill Moore Community Park on the other ball fields. So there's been interest from parents and the baseball people to, if we could light that. Very expensive project, but if you want us to include it for consideration, the 5-year CIP, I talked to Josh Queen in our Parks and Rec department, and they're gonna work on putting a project together, an estimate for that, if that's something y'all want to consider. So that was the only other thing I've heard about, unless, of course, you'll hear all the suggested projects once they come in.
Yep.
And then depending on, what we're all comfortable with, then we'll approve that and try and slot them into different years in the 5-year plan. So if you have something that comes up, let us know. And again, the goal is to, between November and January, maybe get this approved, and then it kind of leads a little more naturally into the operating budget discussions. And that's all.
Any questions for Mark?
Well, we were always told, being discouraged against lights on Field 5. I'm not sure why it was done that way. But do they still feel the same, that they don't want to use the lights a lot on Field 5 because it may disturb maybe the apartments or something? Or would it be the same reason that they wouldn't want to use the lights on the other fields?
I hadn't heard that about, light pollution or disturbing the
Because I talked
apartments.
to Greg about that multiple times, about running the lights at night. Because once it got dark, the game was over.
Yeah,
Or, and he was like, oh, we don't do the lights.
we can do it if we needed to do the lights. I hadn't heard any complaints or any about the adjoining property there with the
Okay.
apartments. So that's, I think we can work around that. It depends how late you go too, with the
Yeah.
lights out there. And if it's adults, it's a little bit later. With kids playing out there, it's probably a shorter period of time. The bigger issue will be, is there enough justification for the large capital costs to put them in versus how much usage you get? And then there is a maintenance element to it too, that the electricity, occasionally changing bulbs that are costly. So it's, are you going to get enough usage out there
Oh, I see that side of it. I was
versus a big
Curious if there's
investment?
another reason we wouldn't be, that would damper the use of lights.
Not that I'm aware of, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I guess that's another consideration in this, is how bright we want to make that late, when now we've got a residential use right next to it. Of course, we'll have that, I think that's a far enough distance, it won't be an issue. We'll have the landing at Meadowview over here. So, but I think that's far enough away, that won't be
Yeah.
as big of a consideration. Probably the bigger impact would be on the Groves, at the apartments next to the park, which is the Groves at Town Center.
So,
Any questions?
Good questions, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. I hadn't heard that about the impact with the apartments.
Discussion item number 10, approval of a grant submission from the Stormwater Off Right-of-Way Grant Program. Mr. Town Manager.
Okay, thank you. We put a copy, and I think all that showed up in there was the pictures showing the area where the improvements would be, but we've received a grant, our first grant application from a homeowner at 96 Wilkie Way to do stormwater improvements along an edge of their property. And it's essentially cutting down a drainage ditch. It's about 170 feet. There's some tree removal, although a bunch of the trees have been removed. And then some fabric, and then riprap rock, and making sure that's sloped properly. That's the gist of the project. And then there was supposed to be a field, like, visit before they submit an application, and since there was some additional detail we had McGill Associates and Ben Cathy had reached out, and we got some additional sketch detail on it, and kind of the last thing we left it with the homeowner is we did a pre-construction meeting out there. We'd feel a little bit better about just making sure the improvements address the storm drainage goal that they're trying to achieve there. So, and they bid it, the low bid ceiling would be at $6,110, and that probably would come down if there's some additional tree removal. There already has been some tree removal on the project. And then our advisory panel, which is part of the grant application process, met on Thursday of last week, and we spent some time going over it, and we were comfortable. Trevor's one of the members of the committee, so that advisory panel committee is myself, Trevor, and Javo Presley. So we're comfortable with it. We appreciate the additional review and questions that were clarified with, that McGill had worked on this and been with the landowner to clarify some things. And we're just trying to, especially our first one, make sure it's designed right for the property owner, addresses the issue. So if y'all approve that tonight, then the next step would be we would go to an agreement per our grant program guidelines. They would do the project, and then they would submit for reimbursement on it. And again, the town provides 90% of the cost of the project, and then the homeowner covers the remaining 10%. I don't know if there's any questions on that, or?
and the homeowner that filled out the application is okay with that?
Yes, yeah. No, it's in our guidelines, and it's a 90-10 split. And that'll be as a part of the agreement, too.
Any other questions on the submission of the grant as applied by one of our residents? No discussion? I hear a motion to approve the submission of the grant for number 96 Wilkie Way.
I'll make the motion.
Hear a motion on the floor, to hear a second?
I'll second.
Hear a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Mr. Manager, your town manager report.
Thank you. Just a couple things from last week, I'll follow up on a couple new things. So debris removal in town, I know we had talked to you via email and stumps, so there was some debris piles around town that had stumps, and because of the weight and, removal complications, we were still trying to get the state, now it would be the state and the contractor to do it. Weren't making that progress. Had had our Public Works Department provide some estimates to basically do it in-house, and so, and we can do it within our operating budget. And so last week, they started on it. It was 7 debris piles that had stumps, and they got it done, so that it's all completed. Plus, good news is it came in under their projections. We had, I think, with equipment rental and then the estimated disposal fees, it was going to be about $4,700 they'd recommended, and I don't have the exact total in front of me right now, but I know the disposal fee based on the reduced tonnage was a lot less than we projected, and part of the reason was some of the stumps had been removed, and we hadn't done it, so we're not sure who had pulled those, but someone had done that, and so we had fewer stumps than anticipated, and so I'm glad to report it was under our estimate and it's done. So appreciate our Public Works Department analyzing it and getting that taken care of. So I don't know if there's any questions on that or.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass that on to Jabo and Company in Public Works, and then the next thing I want to mention, you should have all received an email, and I know I'd emailed you just kind of to give you a heads up that I wanted our Planning and Zoning Director, Tyler Morrow, to sort of spend some time with each of you. It just, it's a real crucial and sensitive position being a Planning and Zoning Director with land use issues. And I thought it'd be helpful for him to kind of hear your all's individual perspectives on land use and development in town. And so I think he's met with Jim. I don't know if he's met yet with any of the rest of you, but it just doesn't take a lot of time, but I wanted you all just to get a little better acquainted with him. And I know he sent out like a list of like discussion questions. You don't have to cover everything on there, but at least give some ideas of things to talk about. But I thought, it's important that he gets your perspective and get to know you on that, because, and Eric spent a lot of time as his predecessor. We get all kinds of inquiries for development, and some of these might require a conditional district rezoning. And, we can't just tell someone, no, and this is the process, and just absolutely dissuade them if, we don't think it's something that'll have a good chance of going forward. But it is important they know some of the, kind of where you stand on some of these issues. And obviously, if the applicant really wants to apply, we tell them the process. But it just helps to have that and save some time of things maybe that might not be the best time of use of your time here to come in here before you for some council action. But and then sometimes, like in the past, we've also asked the applicant if it's something they really want to try and push forward that we think might run into problems getting approved, just to come and float it to you and just say, hey, this is something we're thinking about, we're looking at. It may require some, like a special use permit or a conditional district rezoning where you have to vote to allow that specific project, just to kind of get some idea of what you think about it. So that's what that's about, and so I think that'll be a good time for you all to get to know him and get your feedback. And then the last thing was just let you know, we met the fire chief, Chief Griffin reached out to Tyler Morrow about basically regulations on gated developments, and if we might want to consider our own ordinance kind of regulating that. And so right now, we don't have a lot of gated developments, so that we have a few more than we used to, because technically, a couple of our apartment complexes are really, they are gated developments because they have gated restricted access. So like Seasons at Cane Creek, up on Highway 25, and then the newest one, the Groves at Town Center, the one next to the park, they do have gated access. And then the only other one I consider like a gated development, it was Village at Windstone out in Hooper's Creek there at Mills Gap and Bernie Mountain Road. So, and this is looking at just maybe a little higher standard on some of the components of how they allow access to the gates and maybe battery backup and just some things for public safety when they need to get in there to make sure that's a little bit easier access when they need to do that. So doesn't mean you're going to pass an ordinance on it, but if we bring something back and kind of what changes, we would let you know as either a freestanding ordinance or something that would be added to our land development code. So just to give you a heads up on that, and that's.
I know that's very common. I know for me, from being in Buncombe County, it's, the county has an ordinance where you got to have siren activations and stuff like that, so it's pretty
Okay.
common, so.
Yeah.
Very common.
Yep. And that's all I had.
Okay. Is there anything from council to be brought up? No? Don't have anything? I have one thing real quick I forgot to. I had now about a handful of people asking, I don't know who to talk to about this right here, is the question was, it seems like there's a dip in Hendersonville Road or 25 right there, as you're coming into town right there before you get to the old Cranston plant, there's a big old dip. People's asked me about that. It seems like it's getting worse. I guess that's to be a DOT. I don't know if there's Ben might know, might be a culvert under there. It's probably starting to wash out and it's just getting worse.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's basically it.
So, coming north into town on Highway 25,
Yeah.
it's on the northbound lane.
Northbound lane,
And
it's a dip. I noticed it a couple of days ago, I tried to drive through there and I actually hit it, and that reminded me, it's like, I see what the people are saying now. And so it's getting worse, ever since Helene is this, so they just kind of had a question, is there a culvert right there that's getting undermined, that maybe reach out to DOT?
It'll be out to DOT.
Explanation for it,
Yeah.
for
So,
sure. That would be a big thing.
can we reach out to them?
Yeah, we'll do that. Either myself or Jabo will reach out to DOT about that.
Well, thank you for that.
Yep. Someone had called and also asked about, I think this is on the dip in the road. It's been there for a long time. And I think and we can make sure DOT, to be sure someone has complained probably directly to them. Because we'll help facilitate it, but it is a DOT maintained road.
That's right.
So there's a little bit of a dip on the northbound lane, closer to like, it's a landmark, the apartments there, I think near the entrance. No, the Seasons at Cane Creek, near those apartments, Advance. It's on that northbound lane. It's not a big one, but it dips a little bit in the road there. That's been there for, I want to say, at least a year, 2 years, or, I haven't seen it get noticeably worse, but we had one resident calling the other day about that.
Okay.
So, we can check on both of those. Okay.
Anything else from council? I hear none. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion?
I'll second.
Hear a motion, have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.